Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
If you've been in Unity long enough, you might notice that a lot of times people that are maybe teachers or ministers, we don't like to tell you what to do. As a matter of fact, one of my ministerial school teachers, he said that the U in Unity stands for, you can't tell me what to do. So a lot of times what you will hear is somebody say, I invite you to consider. And what Tony just did was gave y'all an invitation to let go. Are y'all ready to let go? Can you feel that you let go a little bit? I was going to say, if you didn't, I was going to ask him to come out here and sing it again, because I'd love to hear it. So speaking of invitations, I want to talk to you a little bit today. My talk title is called Creating a New Earth. This is our final installment on our series this January. It's been a wonderful, fun series to explore this new Earth by Eckhart Tolle. This book's 20 years old. It's 20th anniversary. I could say that we knew that when we picked it. We did not know it. We didn't know Oprah was going to pick it as her book club choice. But I can tell you this book, when I went back and revisited it, because it's one of the books that has had such a profound impact on my own life. I would not be standing here today without this book. That was my entryway into a conscious spiritual path. So I thought, okay, what I would love to do, because I love Eckhart so much, and I have the book, and I have so many highlights in my book, and I said, I want to really bring an uplifting invitation, an uplifting comment to start the talk off, something light, something fun. And the first highlight I found in the book said, humans are facing a stark realization, evolve or die. I said, okay, well, I don't know if that's the one I want to do. So next to my meditation chair, I also keep a book called This Thing Called You. It's a book by Ernest Holmes. I said, okay, let's get a nice, happy, new thought perspective. And it opens up talking about the creative impulse that is in every single created being, that we are to bring forth this creativity to flower. And then he says, face fulfillment or perish. Oh, okay, find fulfillment or perish. Okay, not there then. Okay, Jesus, I know, because when I came to Unity, I didn't know much about the Bible. I wasn't raised in a religious home, but I loved how Unity brought the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth to life as a spiritual teacher and way shower. But the one that came to my mind was from the Gospel of Thomas, where he says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you. Okay, so that's my inspirational message this morning. Thanks, guys. That's me. I'm done. Okay, thank goodness for the Irish poets, because with John O'Donohue, who one of his quotes inspired the title for this talk. He had something to say about creating something too, and about being creative. And he said that the human identity is the capacity and the desire to be creative. And he also said for birthing, so that we have this capacity and desire for birthing. So I thought about that, because the next thing he said was that this capacity and desire for birthing is something that we bring new and fresh into the world, and that is what we are here to do. And so when we want to create a new earth, as Eckhart is inviting us to, what does that mean? Does it mean we can all look outside in the outer world, in our own lives, in the external circumstances of the world at large, and see things that maybe are asking for some improvement? And it can be very tempting to go out and try to improve things on that level, and that's one way to do it. But there's also another way. And this is what Eckhart's inviting us into, this idea of awakened doing, by creating something new through our own creative impulse. Because when we look at the world, we might call some of it a little bit dysfunctional. Some of the things happening in our own lives, but definitely some of the things out here, systems, ways of being with one another. But he gives us great hope because he says, the caterpillar transforms into the butterfly, but right before it does, things get pretty dysfunctional. There doesn't look like something great is going to happen out of this goo that the caterpillar becomes, especially when its head pops off. So when things become dysfunctional, then there's a possibility, that moment, to transform into something completely different, but it must transcend the way that we usually seek to solve our problems, by making enemies out of them, by resisting them. And so with that suffering is another invitation. With this dysfunction is another invitation. So what are we being invited into exactly? And will we accept? One of the things that I think that we first want to become kind of clear about is how we are being affected by the things in our lives and the things in our world, and making space for those and seeing how we might want to do things differently. One of the things, one of my favorite kind of questions from Jesus was, and there's so many different, in the different versions of the Bible, there are different ways he said it. You're probably familiar with this. He says, why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but you don't notice the plank, the beam, the log? I mean, it goes on and on. And I thought about it because a lot of times we hear this as, oh, well, don't worry about what they're doing wrong. You've got enough stuff to clean up on your side of the street. Well, that may be one way to look at it. But when I thought about it, because I used to wear contact lenses, and if you're a contact lens wearer, and if you've ever gotten an eyelash behind one of your contacts, you know that little thing this big is agony. So what Jesus is saying here, you have an entire log or a plank or a beam in your eye. How painful must that be? And yet you're trying to see around that thing and fix somebody else's for them. Tell them how maybe they could improve a little bit. Hey, I know what you need. I know when I came to Unity, I was so excited to find these teachings. And when I first found Eckhart, I have to admit, the first time I found Eckhart, when I was reading the book, I kind of opened it and I said, well, it was Oprah's book club selection. I must like it. I started reading. I said, okay, weirdo. Put that up, and I sat on my bookshelf for about 5 or 6 years. I needed to create some more suffering for myself before I was ready for it. And when I rediscovered it, oh, here's a doorway. Here's a doorway out of my own thoughts that are creating suffering. Here's a doorway out of this reality I've constructed for myself that sees myself in a limited kind of way. And so a similar thing then happened when I found Unity, and I thought, these teachings are great. And I don't know if any of y'all have had this experience. When you find Unity in some of these things that you've never heard before in your life, your first thought is, wow, this is going to be so good for me. And your second thought is, I know who else this would be good for. And you think about 3 or 4 other people in your lives. And you want to start giving them stuff. I've told this story before in other circles, but when my son graduated high school, my oldest son, I had just taken Discover the Power Within You here as a class, fabulous class. It was a book by Eric Butterworth. And I was, whoa, this is amazing. The tools in this book, these things that I had never heard about how to live your life from the inside out. And I said, you know what, this would be such a good gift. I wish somebody had given this to me when I graduated high school. I'm going to give this to my son. And I thought I'd be cute, and I'd put on a little Post-it note on the outside, warning, this book may change your life. Well, I didn't have to worry about that warning because I found it in the bottom of his closet when he moved out 3 years later, perfectly intact and new. So the point is, if we want to heal the world, if we want to be a healing balm in this world, we have to first look at our own suffering and look at what we are doing to keep and perpetuate that suffering? What kind of stories are we telling ourselves about how we should be, how the world needs to be in order for us to be at peace? And so Eckhart talks about this in his book. A lot of what Eckhart talks about is being in the present moment, right? Being in the now. Things that you can't necessarily say are actions that we can take. Yes, they are. We can bring ourselves back to this present moment. But there is a section in the book where he talks about modalities of awakened doing. Because Eckhart's premise is that consciousness itself, the one presence, the one power, call it what you like. You can call it God. You can call it, if you don't like the word God, trust me, it doesn't care. You can call it what you want. Whatever it is, that word that resonates with you, and no word will come close to what it is anyway. So words are just pointers. But whatever it is, that intelligence, that all-encompassing love, vastness, infiniteness, whatever it is for you, that is seeking to express itself in the world now, and that it is becoming aware of itself. It loses itself in form, in all forms. Everything you see here is an expression of it, has arisen out of it, and it loses itself in the play of form. And though, as humans, we have this unique opportunity that it is becoming aware of itself in form. You becoming aware of the God within you is God becoming aware of itself. And you don't have, I will, honey. And you don't have to make it happen. You don't have to make it happen. That's the most beautiful part of it. You need to make space for it. You need to let go of all the stuff that's standing in the way of it. So there are 3 ways that we can greet the world, that we can meet our lives, that will, and I'm not going to say they're limited to these 3 ways, but I think it's a very helpful framework that Eckhart has of ways that you can check in on yourself. Am I being friendly with life? Am I helping usher in this consciousness of love and peace, or am I resisting and creating more suffering for myself and for others? And I will say, if you think you can create suffering only for yourself and nobody else is being affected by it, have you ever been in the room with somebody who's like, I'm just stressed right now, and they're doing their thing? Yeah, we can feel it. We all know. You didn't have to tell us. So one of the ways, the first modality of awakened doing is simply acceptance. Now, this is when stuff goes sideways. Eckhart uses the example of your tire. You have a flat tire. It's in the rain. It's in the dark. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And then he says, you don't have to enjoy that. And I said, well, thank you, God. I thought he was going to say this should be a time for enjoyment. No, you don't have to enjoy that. There's no need to be put on this spin about, well, isn't this a fun spiritual growth opportunity to have to change this flat tire in the rain in the middle of nowhere? I am just so darn happy about it. But you can't accept it. You can't accept that in this moment, this is what you need to do. This is what the moment is calling for. Because what the mind will want to do is, okay, I gotta change your tire, and then start telling stories about, oh, did I renew my AAA? Did I do this? I should have changed my tire a week ago. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have left earlier. All these stories that are running commentary that add on to the thing that's happening itself. So you have the thing that's happening itself, and then you have all the stuff you're telling yourself about it that's creating the vast majority of the suffering. But something happens when you go into what he calls surrendered action. Okay, the tire's flat. This has happened. What can I do now? And he just take a pause. Take a breath. Allow yourself to postpone blame. You can blame people later if you want, but in that moment, something happened. It looks like nothing's happening, but in that moment of surrendered action, you've actually made space for consciousness. You've actually made space for even perhaps a creative solution to come through. You've made space for things to flow more easily. I have this experience of when I'm in a moment of stress and I'm trying to hurry and get things done, I suddenly become very clumsy. It's the holding things tightly, needing to get things done, wanting to be done in a certain time, all on my time, all I need it to be this way, when in reality, if I would just, relax, one thing at a time, accept this thing, and then the next. A consciousness will flow through you and create ease in all that is yours to do. And you have to give yourself permission. So that's one modality of awakened doing. The second one is enjoyment. And he has something very interesting to say about enjoyment. He says that on the new earth, as we create this consciousness of bringing forth our own divine power, our own divine love into the world and allowing it to flow through us into all that we do, that enjoyment will replace wanting. I thought, well, that's interesting. Enjoyment will replace wanting. Because wanting is always hoping for something that we don't have, right? It's nothing wrong with wanting something, but it puts our fulfillment, it puts our happiness, it puts our contentment out here somewhere. And so until we get it, what's happening? We're waiting. This is a waiting consciousness of waiting for something to get better, waiting for something to happen in order for us to enjoy our lives. So what if instead we can think of the idea that we bring joy into what we do? That joy is actually who we are, and it flows in through us into what we do, and that's what creates the enjoyment. That's what creates the enjoyment, not the thing itself. And the beautiful thing about that is when we can get that the world can't give us anything that we don't already have. Then we bring that to the world, and suddenly the world becomes even more beautiful, more vibrant. Things take on a deeper meaning. Eckhart talks about this. This is a good, and I can speak from experience. I've employed this practice in my own life. And it sounds a little strange at first, but one way to cultivate a sense of enjoyment is to think about the things that you do in your daily lives, and think about some things as, don't think about anything that you really hate to do, but think about the things that are kind of tedious, or maybe boring, or maybe you have a slight bit of stress around, maybe doing the laundry or dishes or answering emails, whatever it is. Everybody's got some, I'm sure, unless y'all are just loving every single, well, maybe some of y'all are loving every. But think of the things that you just think, oh, going to the grocery store again, these kind of things, and see the next time that you do that, if you can be fully present with it, because what happens with those tedious activities, we treat them as a means to an end. When you're grocery shopping, you're already thinking about the next thing you're going to do when you get home. You got to put the stuff away, and then you got to answer that email, and then you got to do this, you got to do that. You're not really fully there. I don't know who's pushing around all those carts in there, but it's people unconsciously living somewhere else in the future, the past, somewhere. But act as if this present moment is all that you have, because it is. Give it the reverence that it deserves, and watch your being expand. You usher in the timeless dimension of life when you do that. All of a sudden, the thing in itself, you bring a great sense of joy and fulfillment to it, and you're not waiting to get it over with. Because so much of our lives as humans, let's face it, there's some exciting moments, and then there's a lot of waiting, traffic, things that we do just to keep these bodies clothed and fed, repetitive activities that can be seen as, we got to do that stuff to get to the good stuff. But what if that is the good stuff? What if we bring the good stuff to that, and then it takes on a whole new layer of meaning? I can tell you, when I came across Eckhart, I was living in Singapore. And one of the things I loved about living in Singapore, I lived there for 6 years, and I never had to learn to drive. I loved it because they have such an excellent public transportation system. And so I would take the subway a lot of times when I was going somewhere, the subway or the bus, and I would often listen to one of Eckhart's meditations while I was doing it. And he talked about this idea of while you're in process of waiting, when you're in the doctor's office, when you're waiting on your car's oils to get changed, whatever it is, how we think of that as wasted time. He said, use that instead to see if you can build up this consciousness of receptivity, this consciousness of being fully awake and aware. And so I would begin to do that on the subway. And it did have kind of a weird side effect, because I began to fall in love with everyone I saw on there. because I felt so connected with them. They didn't know I was feeling this. And I will say a couple times I tried to wink at someone and it, was received in different ways. And then, I told my kids about that. They're like, Mom, you don't know how to wink anyway. You look really weird when you do, so just don't do it. Just as there's some other way you could be with people. But this is the thing, that even something as simple as a ride on subway in your car, whatever it is, that you can bring this timeless dimension into it and bring joy into the world. And when you do that, you cease to create any suffering for anyone else. You cease to create a suffering for yourself. And it's available to you at any time. It's free. So the third a modality of awakened doing, and this is what I love, because the Unity people love this one too, because it's all about creative manifestation. And this is one of our Unity principles, that our thoughts, the way we are with the world, how we perceive, that we can create our reality. And the third modality is called enthusiasm. And the way Eckhart describes enthusiasm is when you have enjoyment plus a goal or a vision. And so you are naturally, a lot of times, what is our outer purpose? We want to know what our purpose is. Well, start paying attention to the joy that you already have in your life. Pay attention to the things that you're doing that you bring joy to, that just feel naturally to you, that you really love doing this. And the creative impulse within you cannot help but to then expand that through you. Well, what if you did this? What if you tried this a different way than what everybody else is doing? What if you now called that person? You will get downloads of things that are yours to do, uniquely yours to do, to bring this enjoyment to a deeper, greater level that will benefit people. There's no competition in this. It's not stress, but it can be intense, Eckhart says. He said you will feel like an arrow flying to a target, and you're enjoying the flight. This is enthusiasm. This is when you have something that you enjoy, you put a goal or vision with it, and you know that you are being backed by the power of the universe itself. This is not little you trying to make things happen in a stressful or efforting way. It will look like work. It will maybe feel like work, but the intensity and aliveness in it will be such that you just feel like you're fully alive. And again, this is something that is available to any one of us, each and every one of us, at any time. So I invite you to experiment. There's another little invitation. I invite you to experiment with this as you go about your days. And again, it doesn't have to take anything. You don't have to wait for a peak moment. I love what the poet Hafiz says. He says that today the vegetables would like to be cut by somebody singing God's name. This points back to this idea that everything we can do can become sacred, can become holy when we bring our own sacredness and holiness to it. And in that way, we can help bring this beautiful new earth into manifestation by loving and respecting life. And all of that we do for ourselves, to remove our own plank and our own beam and our own log, to become more friendly with our own life, has ripple effects for everyone we meet, and people that we will never meet. And that's why I'm so honored to be a part of this spiritual community that honors our personal path for spiritual growth. Because if you're here listening to this message, something within you is hearing the call to evolve. Something within you is hearing the call that there is more here for me. There is more within me that is wanting to be expressed. So bring that to the world. And I would just like to close with the quote from John O'Donohue again. And this time I want to read it because I want to make sure. He says, the heart of human identity is the capacity and desire for birthing. So really feel that. At the heart of your identity is the capacity and the desire to give birth to something, to bring forth something in the world that has never before been seen. To be is to be creative and to bring forth the beautiful. So each one of you is here to bring forth the beautiful in your own lives and for all of us. And I'm so grateful to be on this journey with each and every one of you. So I invite us all to go into prayer. In this moment, I am aware of that each person here today, within the sound of my voice, is right here, right now, on this planet, at this particular time, in this particular incarnation, to bring forth the beautiful, to bring forth the true, to bring forth the good. Because the truth of the matter is that the beauty, the truth, the goodness is already within you. And so as we continue to let go of all the ideas we have about how we should be, how it would be better if fill in the blank, I just need to wait until let go, let go, let go, and come home to the truth that all you have, that you need to have to deliver something beautiful that this world is crying out for, that your soul is here to express, that will make you come alive and enjoy your life in ways that you've never before imagined, is here and it's now, and it's yours. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.